The Los Angeles summer of 2023 was a furnace, the kind that turned soundstages into saunas and frayed nerves to breaking points. On the set of It Ends With Us, Blake Lively stood under harsh lights, her floral dress clinging to her skin as she embodied Lily Bloom, a woman whose journey through love and abuse carried the weight of Colleen Hoover's novel. The role demanded vulnerability, and Blake, a mother of 4 with a career built on charm and grit, poured herself into it. Across the set, Justin Baldoni, her co-star and director, moved with restless energy, his clipboard a constant companion. His Wayfarer Studios had staked everything on this film, a chance to prove he was more than a Jane the Virgin heartthrob, a storyteller who could tackle raw, human truths. But beneath the hum of cameras and the crew's chatter, a fault line was forming, one that would rupture into a scandal shaking Hollywood's core. Blake sensed it early, a subtle discord in the set's rhythm. Intimate scenes, pivotal to the story's emotional arc, required trust, choreography, and clear boundaries. She'd requested an intimacy coordinator, a standard practice, but felt her concerns brushed aside. Justin, she later alleged, prioritized his vision over her comfort, his direction veering into disregard. Moments that should have been collaborative, discussions about Lily's dialogue, her reactions, became battles. Blake, no stranger to asserting herself, pushed back, her suggestions sharp, precise. Justin, protective of his debut as a feature director, held firm, his responses sometimes curt, his authority unyielding. The crew, caught in the crossfire, whispered among themselves, their loyalty split between a star's star power and a director's command. By the time filming wrapped, the tension was a silent specter, invisible to fans eagerly awaiting the August 2024 release. In the quiet of her New York home, Blake confided in her husband, Ryan Reynolds. Over late-night calls, the city's skyline a distant glow, she recounted the set's undercurrents, moments that left her feeling exposed, unheard. Ryan, his wit honed by years navigating Hollywood's egos, listened, his jaw tightening. "You don't have to swallow this," he said, his voice a mix of anger and resolve. "Document everything. We'll figure out the next step." Blake nodded, her fingers tracing the edge of a notebook where she'd begun logging incidents, dates, conversations, the unease that lingered after certain scenes. This wasn't just about her, she knew. It was about every actor who'd faced a toxic set, their voices stifled by fear of retribution. The film premiered to a tidal wave of success, grossing $351 million globally. Critics lauded its unflinching portrayal of domestic violence, and fans flooded social media with praise for Blake's raw performance and Justin's sensitive direction. Red carpet photos showed them smiling, their chemistry a polished facade. But the triumph was fleeting. On December 20, 2024, Blake filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, accusing Justin of sexual harassment and fostering a hostile work environment. The allegations were a bombshell: inappropriate comments, disregard for her boundaries during intimate scenes, a pattern of unprofessional conduct that eroded trust. Worse, she claimed Justin, alongside his publicist Jennifer Abel and crisis PR specialist Melissa Nathan, had launched a retaliatory smear campaign when she raised concerns. Leaked texts, astroturfed social media posts, and tabloid stories painted her as a controlling diva who'd hijacked the film, sidelining Justin's vision. The New York Times broke the story the next day. Its headline: Blake Lively accuses Justin Baldoni of harassment on It Ends With Us set, igniting a firestorm. Social media fractured into factions. #BelieveBlake trended alongside fan edits of her poised red carpet moments, her advocacy for women's rights a rallying cry. Skeptics, however, seized on her promotional missteps, interviews where she joked lightly about the film's heavy themes, drawing backlash, as evidence of hypocrisy. Ryan, ever her shield, stayed publicly silent, but his influence was undeniable. Whispers circulated that his marketing genius, honed through Deadpool's viral campaigns, was countering the alleged smear. Some fans even pointed to his Deadpool and Wolverine character, Nicepool, as a coded jab at Justin, a theory Justin's team dismissed as absurd. "If your wife is harassed," his lawyer later argued, "you don't troll the accused in a superhero flick." Justin, however, was no bystander. On January 16, 2025, he filed a $400 million lawsuit in New York federal court, naming Blake, Ryan, their publicist Leslie Sloan, and Sloan's firm, Vision PR. The suit accused them of civil extortion, defamation, and false light invasion of privacy, alleging Blake had fabricated claims to dodge her own negative press from the film's rollout. Justin's team argued she'd exaggerated benign interactions, seizing control of the edit room and marketing to reshape the narrative. They pointed to set footage, hours of dailies showing laughter, collaboration, as proof of her deception. The lawsuit painted Blake as a calculating power player, leveraging her A-list status and Ryan's clout to dismantle Justin's career, his Wayfarer Studios teetering under the scandal's weight. The legal filings were a labyrinth, each side wielding evidence like a weapon. Blake's attorneys, Mike Gottlieb and Ezra Hudson, invoked California's AB 933, a law shielding harassment victims from retaliatory defamation suits, arguing Justin's lawsuit was a desperate bid to silence her. They warned his scorched earth tactics could cost him $100 million in legal fees under fee-shifting provisions. Justin's lawyer, Brian Friedman, countered that Blake's claims were a sham, accusing her of manipulating the media, including the New York Times, which Justin separately sued for $250 million over its cherry-picked reporting. The Times, Friedman argued, had amplified Blake's narrative, ignoring texts that showed her as the aggressor, her team coordinating with influencers to sway public opinion. The drama spilled beyond the courtroom, a hydra of lawsuits and counterclaims. Publicist Stephanie Jones, once part of Justin's team, sued Jennifer Abel, alleging Abel scapegoated her to steal Justin as a client. Jones issued subpoenas to WhatsApp and Signal, chasing the source of the leaked text central to both cases. Jed Wallace, a crisis PR contractor, filed a defamation suit against Blake in Texas, claiming her accusations cost him millions in reputational harm. Even Taylor Swift and Hugh Jackman were tangentially implicated, with Justin's team hinting at subpoenaing them over a meeting about script edits, though no confirmation followed. The legal web tightened, each thread a new battleground. Hollywood watched, transfixed, as the March 9, 2026, trial date loomed. Blake, undeterred, appeared at the Time 100 Gala, her speech a veiled nod to her resilience amid personal and professional tempests. Ryan, her steadfast ally, praised her strength in private, his public quips deflecting scrutiny. Megyn Kelly, on her show, accused Blake of bastardizing the Me Too movement, a charge Blake's supporters fiercely rebutted, citing her advocacy for survivors. Social media was a war zone, with hashtag Justice for Justin gaining traction alongside hashtag BelieveBlake. Memes, think pieces, and TikTok breakdowns dissected every detail: Blake's promotional interviews, Justin's tearful podcast defenses, the leaked text's cryptic origins. In private, Blake felt the toll. Late nights in her Manhattan apartment, poring over legal briefs, the scrutiny of her every word, it was relentless. She sat by the window, the city's glow of faint comfort, and questioned if speaking out was worth the cost. Her children's laughter echoed from another room, grounding her. She wasn't fighting for herself alone but for a safer industry, one where power didn't silence truth. Ryan, sensing her doubt, squeezed her hand. "You're stronger than this," he said. "We're in it together." Blake smiled, her resolve reignited, her notebook now a tome of evidence, each entry a step toward justice. Justin, too, bore scars. In his Los Angeles office, surrounded by Wayfarer's awards, he stared at a framed "It Ends With Us" poster, its promise tainted. His image as a feminist ally, built through years of advocacy, was fraying. Partnerships dissolved, projects stalled. His wife, Emily, stood by him, her eyes tired but fierce. "They're trying to erase you," she said one night, her voice a lifeline. Justin nodded, his jaw set. He'd fight, not just for his career, but for his truth. The set footage, he believed, would vindicate him, showing a director who respected his star, not one who harassed her. He spent hours reviewing dailies, each frame a rebuttal to Blake's claims. The trial opened in a packed Los Angeles courtroom, the air electric with anticipation. Blake took the stand first, her voice steady, her blonde hair pulled back, a picture of resolve. "I felt dismissed, unsafe," she said, her eyes locking with the jury's. "When I spoke up, they tried to bury me." Her lawyers played audio clips, crew members corroborating her discomfort, and displayed texts allegedly from Abel's team, coordinating negative posts about Blake. The evidence was compelling, but gaps remained, the text's authenticity contested. Blake's testimony stretched over days, her composure unwavering, even as Friedman cross-examined her, probing inconsistencies in her timeline. her control over the film's final cut. Justin's testimony was a counterpoint, his voice raw with emotion. "I poured my heart into this film," he said, tears welling. "To be accused of this, it's a betrayal of everything I stand for." His team screened set footage, moments of Blake laughing with him, their chemistry palpable. "Does this look like harassment?" Friedman asked, his tone sharp. They hammered Blake's credibility, highlighting her team's aggressive PR push post-complaint, her edits to the film that sidelined Justin's vision. The leaked texts, they argued, were fabricated or misconstrued, a ploy by Blake and Ryan to shift blame. Justin's witnesses, producers, assistants, praised his leadership, painting a set where tensions were creative, not predatory. The courtroom became a theater, each side performing for a jury and a global audience. Blake's team called intimacy coordinators who described a set where her concerns were sidelined, their protocols ignored. Justin's team countered with crew members who recalled Blake's dominance, her demands reshaping scenes. The judge, a veteran with a no-nonsense demeanor, kept order, her rulings precise, her patience thinning as the trial stretched into weeks. Outside, protesters gathered, some holding signs reading, "Stand with survivors," others, "Truth over lies." The media frenzy was unrelenting. TMZ ran hourly updates, Vanity Fair published a sprawling feature, "The Fall of It Ends With Us, a Hollywood Reckoning." The case's cultural weight grew, a lightning rod for debates about #MeToo, power dynamics, and PR warfare. Blake's supporters rallied at women's rights events, her complaint a catalyst for industry reform. Justin's fans launched a crowd-funded defense fund, raising millions, their faith in his advocacy unshaken. Pundits dissected the case's implications, how allegations could be weaponized, how truth could drown in spin. The leaked texts, now a case study in digital forensics, fueled speculation about their source, with theories pointing to everyone from rogue publicists to studio insiders. Subplots proliferated, each a microcosm of the scandal. Stephanie Jones, the publicist suing Abel, uncovered emails suggesting Abel's team had hired bots to amplify anti-Blake posts, her findings bolstering Blake's claims. Jed Wallace's Texas lawsuit, though dismissed, revealed his ties to Nathan, hinting at a broader PR network. The Swift-Jackman subpoena rumors fizzled, but not before sparking fan outrage, Swifties flooding X with defenses of their idol. Ryan, ever the strategist, quietly met with studio heads, ensuring Blake's next projects, a gritty indie, a Netflix series, stayed on track, his influence a silent counterweight to the chaos. As closing arguments neared, Blake and Justin faced private reckonings. Blake, in her lawyer's office, reviewed the case's toll, legal fees nearing $75 million, her brand battered but resilient. She thought of Lily Bloom, a character who'd reclaimed her life, and found strength. Justin, at Wayfarer, watched It Ends With Us alone, its final scene, Lily walking away from abuse, hitting harder now. He wondered if he'd direct again, the industry's memory long and unforgiving. Emily, sensing his doubt, hugged him. "You're more than this," she said. Justin nodded, his resolve steeled, his faith in the footage unshaken. The jury deliberated for weeks, their verdict a closely guarded secret. On a rainy April morning in 2026, they returned. The courtroom stilled as the foreman stood. On the count of sexual harassment, we find the defendant, Justin Baldoni, not liable. Murmurs rippled through the room. On defamation, the jury awarded Justin $15 million, far less than his $400 million demand, finding Blake's claims partially exaggerated but not malicious. Both sides claimed victory, but the truth was murkier. The countersuits, Jones, Wallace, The Times, settled quietly, their details sealed, their costs astronomical. Blake left the courthouse, Ryan at her side, cameras flashing. "This was about accountability," she said, her voice firm. "I'd do it again." Justin, in a separate press conference, thanked his supporters, his eyes weary. "I just want to tell stories," he said, his voice catching. Wayfarer announced a new project, a low-budget drama, but its future was uncertain. Blake returned to acting, her indie role earning early buzz, her Netflix deal a lifeline. Ryan, ever the chess master, hinted at a joint production company, their partnership a fortress against the storm. The scandal faded, as scandals do, eclipsed by newer dramas. But its impact endured. Blake's complaint spurred studios to mandate intimacy coordinators, and California lawmakers proposed stricter set protections. Justin rebuilt, his new film a critical darling, a tentative step toward redemption. Hollywood absorbed the saga, its lessons etched in contracts, NDAs, and whispered warnings. Years later, Blake watched It Ends With Us with her children, the credits rolling as she smiled, bittersweet. The fight had scarred her, but it had forged her too, unafraid, unbreakable. Across the city, Justin screened his new film, the applause warm, fragile. He thought of Blake, not with anger, but clarity. They'd both lost something, but they'd both endured. The spotlight dimmed, but their stories, tangled, human, resilient, lived on, a testament to the cost of truth in a world built on illusion. Blake, in a quiet moment, opened her notebook, its pages worn, and added one last entry, for those who come next. Justin, in his office, hung a new poster, a blank slate for his next story. The industry churned on, its dramas endless, but for Blake and Justin, the echoes of their clash would linger, a reminder that even in Hollywood's glare, truth could find a way. The Los Angeles rain had softened to a drizzle by the time Blake Lively stepped out of the courthouse, Ryan Reynolds a steady presence at her side. The cameras flashed, their lenses hungry for a glimpse of her resolve, but Blake's face was a mask of calm. This was about accountability, she said, her voice cutting through the clamor. Inside, though, her heart raced, the jury's verdict, not liable on harassment, $15 million to Justin on defamation, ringing in her ears. It wasn't the vindication she'd sought, but it wasn't defeat either. Ryan squeezed her hand, his eyes fierce with unspoken promises. They slipped into a black SUV, the city's blur a fleeting escape from the storm that had consumed them. Across town, Justin Baldoni stood before a smaller crowd, his press conference a stark contrast to Blake's media circus. His eyes, shadowed by sleepless nights, met the microphones. "I just want to tell stories again," he said, his voice catching on the edge of hope. The $15 million award was a fraction of his $400 million demand, a hollow victory against the scars left by Blake's allegations. His wife, Emily, stood just off stage, her smile tight but unwavering. Wayfarer Studios, battered by lost deals, clung to a new project, a low-budget drama about redemption. Justin clutched the script like a lifeline, its pages worn from late-night revisions. The verdict had cleared his name, but the industry's memory was long, its trust fragile. In the weeks that followed, Blake retreated to her Manhattan sanctuary, the city's pulse a balm against the trial's wounds. Legal fees had drained millions, her brand bruised by headlines dissecting her every move. She sat with her children one evening, their laughter a reminder of why she'd fought. Her notebook, once a chronicle of set grievances, now held new entries, reflections on resilience, on the cost of truth. Ryan, ever the strategist, was already plotting their next move. "We're starting that production company," he said, his grin boyish but determined. "You tell the stories you want, on your terms." Blake nodded, her mind drifting to her indie film, its gritty script a deliberate pivot from Hollywood's gloss. The role, a single mother escaping abuse, felt like an echo of Lily Bloom, a chance to reclaim her voice. Justin, meanwhile, threw himself into his new film. Wayfarer's offices, once bustling, were quieter now, the staff lean but loyal. He spent hours on set, his direction meticulous, his laughter rarer. The scandal had stripped away his ease, but it had sharpened his focus. Critics who'd once dismissed him as a lightweight now watched closely, intrigued by early footage of his drama, a story of a man rebuilding after betrayal. Emily, pregnant with their third child, was his anchor, her faith unwavering. "This is your comeback," she said one night, her hand resting on his. Justin smiled, but doubt lingered. The industry forgave slowly, and Blake's shadow loomed, her allegations a whisper in every pitch meeting. Hollywood, ever adaptable, absorbed the saga's lessons. Blake's complaint had sparked change, studios mandated intimacy coordinators, and California lawmakers drafted bills to protect set workers. But the scandal's cultural ripples were messier. On X, #BelieveBlake and #JusticeForJustin faded, replaced by debates about #MeToo's boundaries, about truth in the age of spin. A Vanity Fair exposé, the PR war that tore Hollywood apart, detailed the smear campaign's mechanics: bots, leaked texts, influencers paid to sway opinion. Stephanie Jones, the publicist who'd sued Jennifer Abel, won a quiet settlement, her evidence exposing Abel's role in anti-Blake posts. Jed Wallace's Texas suit fizzled, but his name became a cautionary tale for crisis PR mercenaries. Blake's return to the spotlight was deliberate. At a women's rights gala, her speech, about survivors' courage, about refusing silence, drew a standing ovation. She didn't mention Justin, but the subtext was clear. Backstage, Ryan whispered, "You're unstoppable." Her indie film wrapped, its festival buzz promising awards. But privately, Blake grappled with the trial's ambiguity. The jury hadn't believed her fully, and that stung. Late one night, she called her lawyer, Ezra Hudson. "Did I do enough?" she asked. Ezra's voice was firm. "You changed the game. That's enough." Justin's film premiered at Sundance, its reception a tentative triumph. Critics praised its raw honesty, calling it Baldoni's redemption. He stood at the Q&A, his smile cautious, and thanked his team, his family. Blake's name went unspoken, but her presence lingered in the questions about his past. A producer approached post-screening, offering a bigger project. "You're back," she said. Justin nodded, but the weight of the last 2 years pressed against him. He thought of Blake, not with anger, but a weary understanding. They'd both been chewed up by the same machine, their truths warped by its gears, the industry churned on, its dramas endless. Blake and Ryan's production company launched, its first slate a mix of female-driven stories. Justin signed a streaming deal, his career steady if not soaring. The scandal became a footnote, its lessons etched in safer sets, sharper contracts. One evening, Blake watched It Ends With Us with her eldest daughter, the credits rolling as she held her close. "Why did you fight?" her daughter asked. Blake smiled, her answer simple. "Because silence isn't strength." Across the city, Justin tucked his newborn son into bed, the script for his next film on the nightstand. He'd survived, but he'd never forget. The spotlight had dimmed, but its echoes, truth, cost, resilience, endured, binding Blake and Justin in a story neither could escape.